R. Kelly. All right. A federal appeals court ruled that R. Kelly received the appropriate sentence for his child sex conviction in Illinois. In 2022, a Chicago jury convicted the judges on 3 charges of enticement of minors for sex. The 3-judge panel disagreed with Kelly's attorneys that Illinois' former and shorter statute of limitations on the child sex crime prosecutions should have applied to the Chicago case rather than current law permitting charges while an accuser is still alive. Kelly's attorney said she plans to take the case all the way to the United States Supreme Court. Dr. Dibinga, what do you think about this journey?
You know, every time I look at R. Kelly, I get so frustrated about the permission structure that allowed him to do what he did. From everything from marrying Aaliyah when she was 14 and all of us who are out here in this world who are unsuspecting fans, not realizing that we were singing along to lyrics that were about, you know, child molestation and predatory behavior and the like, and how he was able to get away with it for 30 years or plus, and all of the people who enabled him. And of course, there's been no trial yet for Diddy, but, you know, we're seeing some of these things, you know, come out and play out in similar ways. I'm going online and I'm reading stories about how, you know, like Diddy, you know, his crew used to have drinks that had stuff in it on one side and other drinks that didn't have on the other. Like this permission structure, I just wonder what hip hop would look like, what R&B would look like if it respected Black women. And everything that R. Kelly is getting, he deserves 10 times over. But he has not been the only one. We have allowed this and sustained this for too long. I don't care what people say happens in other genres. I don't care about people, whether it's Russell Simmons. I don't care what people say, oh, it was a different time. No, we cannot condemn child molestation, child rape. We cannot condemn rape culture to adult women and men. We have to take a stand. We are, everybody on this group right now, we are hip hop, you know, regardless of our age, whatever it is, we are the community. We are responsible now. We got ownership of different things. We have to claim our music. We have to claim our community for these next generations. And that is the only reason why I want the R. Kelly story to stay in the news. All these convictions, take it all the way up to the Supreme Court so they can keep throwing it down. Although I don't know about some of these cats on the Supreme Court, the Kavanaughs of the world. I get a little nervous if it gets up there. But all of these other guys, like, so we can keep it in people's faces, keep people on blast, so these other artists know that we're not going to tolerate this anymore. We've tolerated it for too long, and it's just frustrating to see.
You know, Renita, his attorney said, listen, the prosecutors really didn't make the case. And I'm wondering from you, what do you think about him continuing to try? Because I've heard a lot of people say, listen, there are murderers who did not get the sentence that R. Kelly got. This was just one sentence of 20 years. He'll deal with another sentence, I'm sure, on another appeal. But what are your thoughts about this and that there perhaps is an imbalance in a sentence when we look at other people who have done crimes that we think deserve the same amount of time?
Well, I think that this is going to be very interesting, and I think that he's going to have a tough road in trying to get the conviction overturned. And the reason why I say that is because from what I read, and y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I read about this appeal that he's trying to do, his lawyers are arguing that at the time that the crimes took place, there was a 10-year statute of limitations in Illinois. But now when he actually was convicted, Illinois changed its law to say that survivors have a lifetime to basically bring charges. And so they're trying to say, well, the crimes happened at a time where there was a 10-year statute of limitations. And so nobody is arguing that this would have been outside of those limitations. But at the time that he was convicted, the law had already changed. So the reason why I think this is going to be a very uphill battle is because generally convictions and the criminal legal system responds to whatever the current law is at the time. So Illinois is not the only state that has brought about laws to support survivors of sexual assault in much better ways. So, for example, in Georgia, we've had a bill that has continued to come up in previous years to say that if you are an institution that's covering up sexual assault, you can be held civilly liable, for example, like what we saw with the Olympics and the Catholic Church. So the point I'm making is that if he were successful in getting this conviction overturned, it would have larger ramifications. They would have ramifications that are larger than him. It would have ramifications for other states who now have similar laws to Illinois that say that there is no statute of limitations. So because of that, I think that it's going to be really difficult. And in addition, I think that the case, with so many of the sexual assault complaints being thrown out and him only being convicted on a portion of what strongly believe happened, this is one of those situations where prosecutors understand they can't get you for all that we're pretty sure that you did, and we saw videotape evidence of, because the statute of limitations ran out. So you will be got for what we can actually nail you down for. So I think that this is probably a lost cause.
Hey, Renee, you make a good point, and that's what the judge said too. They said, listen, there were 7 counts that were thrown out, and this was abhorrent behavior. And so you really got lucky that you got this particular sentence. Dr. Malveaux, Renee also makes a good point in that these laws have been put on the book in order for survivors of sexual assault or assault to come forward, extending the time. We've seen this in Sean Combs' case, as Dr. Dubinga was talking about. And there are some parallels. People are talking about it in the same breath. What's your takeaway from what R. Kelly is trying to do?
He's Donald Trump in blackface, if you will. I can do whatever I want to a woman, I don't have to, bear any consequences. So he looked real good in that orange jumpsuit, looked just like his twin. But what I would say is New York State opened a window and said, if you have past sexual assaults, you have this much time to bring it up. And we saw people bring it up, and it has made a difference for some people in terms of them being able to get fiscal satisfaction for what often is a life-shattering experience. I don't have much love for R. Kelly. For any number of reasons, but especially because of the predatory nature of his relationship, as Owakongo mentioned, with Aaliyah. Who marries a 14-year-old? Well, you marry the 14-year-old to cover up the sexual assault that you visited on her. That's the only reason that a grown man marries a 14-year-old. So if the Supreme Court was smart, they stay out of this. I mean, I don't think that it comes to the Supreme If he wants to waste his little money, which is dwindling, but you can't put all those millions in your prison commissary account. But if you want to waste your little money spending lawyers' fees to appeal, go for it. But I think the Supreme Court probably should not even touch this. It doesn't come to the Supreme Court level. He's gone to the appeals court. They've said no. But again, like his twin, the other orange man, he wants to prolong this. And hopefully, I think he probably hopes that at some point that he may get some kind of say or something. But there are too many convictions. There's too much truth. The community knows about it. Other people know about it. It's repugnant. But it's part of, again, rape culture and the devaluation of women. And then the misogyny, the fact that Black men can devalue Black women in that way. Mm-hmm. I mean, men devalue women, but it's especially painful when Black men make the choice to devalue Black women, their mothers, daughters, sisters, wives, cousins, godmoms. Anytime a man does that, they're saying, none of y'all women are spit. And I said spit. I'm not cursing on Roland's show. Let him do that.
Yeah. Listen, Dr. Dubinga brought up Sean Combs. And I think really Cassie was the tipping point there in terms of everybody's attention, Dr. Dubinga. But what do you say about what type of precedent this sets for Sean Combs in terms of what he should be thinking right now in looking at R. Kelly? Because again, we know that a lot of people are talking about them in the same breath.
Yeah, I mean, Sean Kelly, Sean Combs. Wow. Goodness. Diddy should be doing what he's doing right now, which is being, very, very quiet, because the more he speaks out, the more people are going to, speak out against him. There are definitely going to be more cases to come. And I'm talking about, when I brought that thing about the drinks and the stuff, that was like, Mark Curry, who was right there, Bad Boys for Life, like people who are in the know and talks about eventually, leaving that life. Stories his bodyguard, were have told as well. And it bothers me because they're telling all of these stories now, but they were all part of it at the time, which is one thing. But as Dr. King said, the time is always right to do right. And I just hope that regardless of whatever legal penalties that Diddy may face, that there is a larger social penalty that he faces from us, because we're finally going, I'm thinking of the songs I grew up on. I'm thinking of like Belle Biv DeVoe, Do Me Baby, Backstage, Underage, Adolescent, How You Doing? Like all of these particular songs that just glorified, just talked about this stuff like it was nothing, and we're young and consuming these things. And now that we're older, we have to be the ones to take a stand. And so again, and for me, I don't care if I was your biggest fan. If you get convicted or found, guilty or in any way, shape, or form of these types of things, like, I just can't mess with you. There's enough good music. There's enough artists who respect the law and respect our community that we can support. So all of this loyalty to people you've been listening to for 20, 30, 40 years or whatever, they don't deserve that. They don't deserve that in any way, shape, or form. Let's make a bigger platform for people who will respect our women and respect our community and respect our children.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.